Hello and welcome to the IdeaCast interview series, episode number 59. My guest in this episode is Mollie Leivars. And Mollie is a filmmaker. And not only is she a filmmaker, she has her own film production company called Spirit Productions, located in the United Kingdom. And in this conversation, we talk about her work with her production company as well as filmmaking in general. And we also move around a little bit in the field of interpersonal relations, which are reflected in her filmmaking. We talk about matters that are universal throughout every generation's coming of age, and we also talk about some, I guess you could call them existential issues, but I throw a few ringers in there for her to talk about, rather, because I suspect that there will be members of her peer group and her age range in this coming to this conversation, and I wanted to get her insights that she could share with her age group. So thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. I'd like to thank my subscribers, and please enjoy this conversation. And I'd like to welcome Mollie Leivars to the IdeaCast interview series. I'm looking forward to a spirited conversation with this young lady. And I also want to welcome the YouTube audience and my subscribers. Thank you all so much for joining us in this conversation. Mollie, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. Now, did you see how I sort of cheekily inserted spirited conversation? Can you tell the audience what I was inferring there? What is the name of your production company?
It's called Spirit Productions.
It is. And so, as you all heard in the introduction, Mollie is a filmmaker in the broadest sense. I mean, you are cinematographer, you are director, you are the head of the company, and so you wear hats, multiple hats, when you're doing these films, these short films that you're creating. Before we get started in film talk, and I know you and I can geek on films for a while, I want to get a little background on you. And so what brought you to where you are with this company that you've started? Let's start with that.
So I was acting for a few years from when I was about 13. And then I got to 15 and I had a really bad experience at school where I was kind of badly bullied. And I realised how kind of alone I felt in that. And I realised that I never wanted anyone else, whether they be young or not, to feel like they were alone in what they were going through. So I knew that I always kind of wanted to look at doing things behind the camera instead of in front of it, but I didn't realize how much I was going to love it. So I decided to make my first film, because also I knew how much rejection there was in the industry from an acting side of thing. So to be able to kind of give roles to other young actors and everything, most of which I'd known for years anyway, through kind of auditions and meeting them that way, to be able to kind of give them roles was something that I really, really wanted to do, because I knew how much it meant. So it was kind of an accumulation of all of those things, and it was a passion for making sure that young people could watch things and relate to it and know that someone out there understands what they're going through. So I created my short film in 2019, I think, when I was 15, and I've never looked back.
And what was that first short film that you created?
That was called Trauma Jack, and that was about knife crime.
Okay. And you mentioned that you had done acting. Was it stage acting or was it in front of a camera?
It was mostly kind of camera things and everything. I started off doing modeling, and then that turned into acting. So they kind of came a little bit hand in hand. So it was kind of doing like showreel scenes and everything like that.
What kind of scenes? I'm sorry. Show.
So I was only doing it for about 2 or 3 years, I think, before I stopped. So it was kind of a lot of auditions and self-tapes and everything like that, and a few short films and a few kind of showreel clips as well.
Okay. And what was the origin of your desire to get into that phase of your development that is acting? What was inside of you that wanted to express that, if that makes sense?
I think it was I think it was from when I was at school, because I mean, school wasn't a great place for me to be.
Hmm.
But the thing that I always enjoyed was drama, and I never really knew that I liked doing stuff like that. It was actually the thing that I was most nervous about when I kind of joined secondary school. I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to like perform in front of people and everything. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be able to do that. And it's
Hmm.
only as I was doing it that I realized, okay, I love it, because at the time I was going through a lot of things and I was really struggling. So to be able to kind of be a character and be someone else, even though I didn't have a lot of confidence myself, the character had confidence and the character could perform in front of people, even if I felt like I couldn't. So it was kind of that kind of thing, like being able to play a different character, and then that's what kind of got me into it.
So I'll ask you a theoretical question to sort of project forward into the future. When you are accomplished in behind the camera work and production work, would you ever consider stepping out in front again and taking on that challenge, maybe at a different age or with a different level of confidence and feeling as though you've fully apprehended the holistic aspect of film and all that. So I'm being long-winded, but so would you consider down the road?
I kind of I consider it weekly, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's something that I do think that I probably will go back to at some point, when it's less of a, when almost like it's less pressurized, in the sense of if I didn't need to make a career out of it or anything like that, and if it was just kind of something that I enjoyed doing. That's definitely something that I would like to do. But yeah, it's something that I contemplate quite a lot every now and then. I kind of think, oh, should I, shouldn't I, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And of course it's a wide open world and you can,
Mhm.
there's no, yeah, you're the only one that, would either inhibit or encourage yourself from doing that. So then I'll throw you one last question on that. And that is, so in your imagination, your desire to be in front of the camera, would you want to be a dramatic actor, or would you want to do a little farce and comedy, or what, or maybe something classical? I mean, what would you imagine yourself doing
I
in?
think I'd love the kind of like gritty drama kind of
Mm,
thing and everything, especially if it's something that I've kind of like experienced myself, because I feel like you can pull from so many experiences when you're acting something like that. I think I'd love to be able to say that I'd be able to do comedy or something, but I'm never funny when I try to be. I'm
that's
also
the, but that's the beauty about comedy is it's like we laugh at people who are just doing stupid stuff and we're like, oh, and,
yeah.
and and some people are really good at like purposefully being funny, but other people like what was it, Seinfeld and
Hmm.
Michael Richards as Cosmo Kramer. I mean, that guy was just a train wreck and a whirling dervish, and that's what made him funny. Anyway, so I almost think it's like this safeguard that you can know that you're going to make them laugh one way or another, and maybe you didn't need
Hmm.
to make them laugh because you screwed up. Yeah, but it's hey, a laugh's a laugh at the end of the day, right? And so many comedians and so many comedic actors to me seem to do sacrifice themselves in that sense, and they do this
Yeah.
self-deprecating persona, like
Hmm.
Rodney Dangerfield or somebody like that, and it works. But anyway, so you would have to discover that within yourself. And I bring this up also in my life experience and watching a lot of TV and film. I love it when the director steps out and gets in front of the camera. And sometimes when my wife and I are watching, and we don't watch a lot of TV anymore, but when we would watch sitcoms and things like that on either Netflix or Hulu or whatever, we would see that it was directed by one of the actors in the sitcom,
Hmm.
and we're like, oh wow, it's somebody's perspective, and so it'll be interesting, and they're out there acting, but it's kind of surreal that you're playing a character, you're surrounded by characters, and then all of a sudden you're the director again. You have to just be
Yeah.
these and just like, cut. No, this was no good. And it's that to me is mind-boggling that you can juggle those, not you, but I mean the person can juggle
Hmm.
those balls. So that's fascinating to me. I mean, that would strike me as being a challenge within a challenge, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's narrow in on where you are at present and your most recent work that you've done. And before we hit record on this conversation, I was mentioning to you that I was scrolling through your Facebook account, which will be down below for those watching the interview. All of Mollie's social information and her company website will be down below in the description field. But you recently submitted a script to what is called the Shark Awards. So we'll have you explain that. And the script was, I believe it was called Expectations. So could you open that up for us and share some of that?
So that essentially the awards was you were given a brief where you had to create a short kind of 5-minute script all surrounding just one egg. So I took that and I ran with it, and I was very, very lucky to be shortlisted. And I kind of find out about that next month. But they are a company that do awards and work with a lot of people who are in the media industry. And this is their second year running their script writing competition. But yeah, it's very, very exciting.
Oh, I should say. And it seems like the person that's the adjudicator or the judge of this has got some chops. And so to be scrutinized by somebody of a higher caliber is, to me, it would be very rewarding and very satisfying. So let's say the gods of film smile on you and you get that that first place or whatever the tiers are of award that they hand out. What happens after that? What would happen for you?
I think I'd cry, and then
well, yes, that's your reaction. And let's talk about that. Like, so share, because when you posted that thing on Facebook, you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. You know, I could feel it. You were really happy. So aside from being elated, what would they do for you? What would the exchange be? What would happen between you and that? Do you just get this honor, like this trophy and honor, or do you
I think it's having that kind of backing behind you, because I think when it comes to making scripts and converting them into short films, having something like that and having a company that is so well established and a judge that is so well established, to have that kind of backing on your script opens up so many doors and so many opportunities. So yeah, it's so exciting.
Yeah, I should say. Like I said, I felt it when I opened up that, or when it showed up on the stream. Now, you mentioned the knife violence short film that you made, and you also on your YouTube channel you make available a trailer for a film that's in circulation in some movie festivals. Let's get to that in a second. We'll pin that for a second. I want to talk about Zoe, though. You have that complete short film on your YouTube channel. I did watch it, and so the Justin, the film watcher, will say, I love the way you shot it, in the sense that you were profiling these people, the 3 subjects in that, and your editing was really well done, I think, in the sense that you know you were capturing emotion, you were capturing humanness and all these things. So that I really appreciate it. And the way it was, oh, of course, and the way it was acted and delivered, I wanted to strangle the boy in the film. You know, I never had kids, but I'm feeling like a father right now. I'm like, you, and you did a really good job, because that really, going into human behavior, I mean, that was just such narcissistic manipulation and all these things. So anybody watching this, again, links below, go check out Zoe. So I'll stop hogging the conversation. Tell us about Zoe. Tell us about what was going on. And with my setup there, I'll hand it off to you.
That idea came from my old English teacher, actually. It was when I was still at college, and she said that because she knew that I made films, and she said, have you ever thought about doing one about that kind of topic, about kind of unhealthy relationships and consent with teenagers and everything? And I hadn't really thought about doing it. So yeah, and then it just kind of that happens a lot. Kind of someone will say something to me, and then I'll go down like a rabbit hole of writing things and having an idea and everything. So it was a whirlwind, really. But it is funny because Illyrian, that actor who plays Oh God, I've forgotten his character name.
Oh gosh, I have the links up. Hold on. I know what you're saying.
I
What
can't remember his
you
name.
remembered his name. That's good enough.
What
Oh,
was his name?
I had something else open. I can get you there. Hold on one second. I'm gonna pop IMDb open. But anyway, he did such a fabulous job because he was, again, I was like, you little so and so.
I know.
But his
He's so wonderful because I mean
mhm.
I've worked with Illyrian quite a few times, but especially on that film, kind of as he was doing the scene and everything, I was thinking, I don't like you. And then he come out of the scene and he'd be lovely. And yeah, it just shows how wonderful of an actor he is. The fact that even though I knew him and I've known him for years,
Mhm.
kind of watching him do that scene, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. So his character name was Andy Illyrian. Is that what you were searching for? Was Andy was that his character, or am I on the
No,
wrong?
I think because he was in For the Love of Eve as well.
Oh, I
Um,
did go to Love of Eve by accident. I do
what was his
apologize.
name?
Oh no, it's not even listed there. Oh gosh, and I just
Why
watched
can
that.
I not remember his name?
Well, he'll be Mr. X right now. That'll be
Yeah.
his character
I
name.
know it was Zoe and it was Esme
Then
was the friend, but
okay.
no, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, see, that says something though, because he's such a despicable character that you're just like
Yeah.
you ghosted him, right? When they talk about narcissism, you
Yeah.
just gray rocked him or ghosted him. So that's what we'll call it. It's not that you forgot. It's just you've moved on. From that nasty character. But that's so wonderful in the heart because gosh, I'd hate to get typecast with that kind of character.
Yeah.
But yeah, hats off to all of them. They all did a wonderful job. And again, your filming of
Brilliant.
it, yeah, your filming of it was done quite well. Well, now that we've opened up For the Love of Eve, let's talk about that for a moment. I know it. I think when we had our initial meeting, you were saying that it will be released to the public. What's the time frame roughly? Was it later this year that that one was gonna come
I'm
out?
thinking possibly next year, kind of
Next
early
year?
next year and everything. That
Okay.
should be when like all of the festivals have finished.
Okay. And there is a trailer on YouTube for that. Can you share a little bit about what the story is about?
So For the Love of Eve is it's mainly about county drug lines and it's about the impact that can have on people's families, but it's also a bit of an exploration into what we're willing to do for the people that we love, because I always knew that I wanted to do something on county lines, and that's been on my radar for about 2 or 3 years now. And then when I was thinking of ideas and everything, I was building up the characters. I thought about the prospect of, I can easily say that I would never be involved in it. I'd never willingly kind of sell drugs or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought about the prospect of a family member or a loved one coming to me and saying, you need to do this, else I'm gonna get hurt or something. And I realized in that moment, I thought I wouldn't think twice, I'd do it. So it's that kind of, because I think it's very stigmatized, and there is a lot of judgment on people that are involved in county lines and a lot of young people that are involved in it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a case of it's like a us and them kind of situation. So I tried to make it where it shows how literally anyone can get involved. And it was from that realization that I had that I realized that oh my God, I could too. Like it's, but yeah, and that's kind of the road that I went down with it, kind of to almost like humanize it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Can you share county lines and what that means, especially for an American
So
like me?
county lines is essentially like a drug system. So a lot of places, a lot of main cities like London, they will have people that like go county. So they'll go to like smaller, more rural areas, and they will either sell drugs there or they'll get almost like ambassadors there.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ambassadors, but people there um so that they can kind of expand their drugs business essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is done through kind of trains and everything. So that's why they call it county lines.
Okay. All right, good. So I'm an American, so but it seems like it's a classic marketing and distribution, and also probably well, marketing as in the market system, and then distribution, and then marketing again as a promotional thing.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't laugh at that, but I have a history, so I like the fact, and it wasn't abuse or anything, but I was a hedonist when I was younger, so I know about some of these, and we talked about that in an earlier meeting. But I lived in a gentler time when it wasn't these. The drugs are it's a different landscape right now. But yeah, I love that you take that position that there should be compassion enfolded into this crisis essentially, and that here in America, they tried the so-called war on drugs, which was really, code speak for a war on people. It was a culture war, and it was an experiment, and it failed. And we do need to do something about, because we still have a drug epidemic in this country, or at least I would be so bold as to call it an epidemic because it's a mental health issue. But that's how it has to be seen, I think, as a mental health issue. And, things can be done to help curtail the importation or the manufacture or whatever. We can talk about that and the interdiction practices. But yeah, I think it should start with compassion. Maybe not for somebody that's not using the drugs and just making money, then yeah, there's an argument there. But if somebody's addicted and they need their supply, they're going to get into that network and they're going to get in there. And so that's where the compassion needs to come in. And that's where you could probably interrupt some of the prevalence of this is to throw a lifeline, I guess. I was going to say rescue, but that's not going to throw a lifeline to these people. How was that being received? Let's start with your peers. How those in your age group, what are they thinking about the topic and your effort, the film that you made?
Well, everyone really enjoyed it when I sent it to them and everything, like all of the cast and everything like that. And then a few of my friends have seen it as well, and a few of other people that I know, and family. And obviously I know that they're probably biased because they're not going to say Mollie.
Team Mollie, team Mollie. Yeah, no, that's true.
But yeah, I think it's been well received, and I hope it has, and I hope that when it comes to festivals and everything, then hopefully it will be well received there too. But yeah.
Can you share anything about the film or the script rather, that was picked for the Shark Awards? Do you want to keep that under wraps for now, or can you talk a little bit about what that's about?
I don't know whether I'm allowed to, but it centers around kind of youth issues and everything, and the concept of like one egg is very important for the brief. But yeah, it's definitely very youth based, and it's about something that's very prevalent right now, I think, and something that's close to my heart too. But yeah.
Yeah. No, we should respect its privacy for now, and when it's available. Again, everything's down below in the description field, you guys. We're building up tension here, right? Like, so they can follow you on your social media, and when it's time for disclosure, you can regale them with that. I always love that word, regale. They'll be like, have fun with it. And it seems like your people that do follow you. It's funny when I get a guest, and I know I'm going to do an interview. It's almost weird and creepy because I have to really, like, drill down on these people and find their social media and scroll and get to know a lot about them. Sometimes if it's an author, I just read the book, but like, you're kind of a human interest story in of itself, and so I have to kind of scroll social media, and so there's other things that arise from that, and it's the support you get, and it's the people that you like. I was even looking at the people that you follow on Twitter, and like, just to get a sense of who you are. And there's a lot of people out there who are just so creative and so immersed in what you're in, the genre or the field that you're in. And I think that's just so remarkable. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to connect with you for an interview, is to talk to somebody who's just at the beginning of their journey and just getting started. And I said to myself, I have a strange sense of humor. I said to myself this morning, wouldn't it be great if in like 5 years I reached out to do another Mollie interview, and her her personal assistant, gets back to me and go, oh, Mollie remembers you and she'd love to have a talk, but guess what? She's in a pre-production, post-production, she's doing blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, that would be so heartwarming and satisfying to me to get that rejection, which sounds a little counterintuitive. Like selfish me would be like, oh, damn, I want it because she's doing it. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping for you for the future. But yeah, I think it's good to have that system of support. And you kind of mentioned it tongue in cheek a moment ago, like, well, I get a lot of nice feedback, but the bigger you get, the more you immerse yourself in the public commons and the ecosystem of filmmaking and criticism and stuff. I think that'll become more sincere, and I think you'll get, and of course you want constructive feedback that's not praising and all flowers and light and everything like that. You need that to grow. And so I'm visioning for you that this grows and that you will grow with it in a sort of relational way. You get the feedback, you get your results from a film that you make, and or the reviews come in and things like that. And that's, to me, and I'm rambling here, but that's just such a creative process in its own right, and I suspect that conscientious filmmakers and production people thrive on that, even again when it may not feel good, but you thrive on that. So let's go back for a moment now that I'm done wandering off on that thought. Let's talk about bullying. Let's go back to bullying for a minute, and because I'm hoping that some of the capture in this interview will be people in your generation. So I would like, if you could, speak with me, but also speaking as though there were a bunch of 17-year-old boys, girls, and persons in the room with us. And what are your insights? What advice would you give? What do you know of in the public sphere that people can do to get support for bullying? Let's open that up a little bit.
I think the main thing is to know that it's not you, because I spent a lot of time thinking, oh, maybe I'm just, I essentially thought that because I was weak with the people that were doing it, that I almost brought it on myself. Because now I look back and I think, oh my God, why aren't you like saying something? Why are you letting them kind of treat you this way? But I only do that now because of the experience that I've had. So I think it's important to know that it's not anything about you, because no matter what, people are always going to find something, like whether it's about your appearance or your personality or your anything, they will find it and they will kind of use something against you if they can. And it's knowing that you're not on your own as well, knowing that it's not just you that's going through it, and knowing that even though everyone talks about it, even though everyone says, oh, it's just a part of life, it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. So you shouldn't have to kind of take it and be okay with it just because it's just one of those things, because it shouldn't be one of those things, and you're entitled to have people around you that are supportive. And I think definitely choose the people that are around you, without a doubt. It kind of, I understand that obviously at school and everything like that, it's very difficult because it's kind of, you've got your own little groups and everything like that, and it's very difficult to kind of step out of that. But definitely as you get older, you are able to choose the people that you have in your life, and you're able to have boundaries with people. If something, like if you still kind of want to know them, but it's still a little bit like their personality is maybe a little bit iffy, then you can kind of choose to keep them at a distance, and then you can have close friends. And so I think it's knowing that you're not on your own, and things do get better. And it's just about having the confidence of one, not believing what they're saying, and two, choosing the right people and the people that kind of lift you up instead of dragging you down.
I'd say as an old person, the advice I could pass on to a group of 17-year-olds is that you're stuck right now and you intimated this in what you were just saying. You're stuck in a school system. You're stuck with people, and some of them are jerks. And as you move into adulthood, as you move into your 20s, that dissipates a little bit. If you go to university, that's broader system. There's more space there, and so that just by that fact alone, the dispersal will help with that. and into adulthood, I think bullying becomes more consensual. I think it's an implicit agreement that two people enter into when somebody is the bully and somebody's the bullier. And so narcissism is a sort of very popular way to lens this. And there's the narcissist and there's the codependent. And that's, I'd say there's similarities to and sometimes the bully is a narcissist, but a lot of times I think, not that I know anything about psychology, but the bully is very weak and vulnerable and fearful. And the way to sort of project a means of anchoring themselves to confidence and vitality and alpha female male stuff is that they tear somebody else down and they project their fears onto somebody else, feedback on that and that. So if that helps anybody, know that you can probably find in resources of your school that somebody can do a better job of saying what I just said and help you with, right. Who am I? But if you go to somebody who's a qualified therapist or counselor or something like that, or just a responsible adult, a teacher, and they can find the resources for you to work with that. And I can remember in my childhood, I did have bullies come up to me, but I'm I wasn't the biggest person, but I'm also like, I have this like rage thing inside me. People tried to bully me and I terrorized them. I'd get them. There was one person in my life that I couldn't stand up to, and he was a monster. And I had to be practical. Like he could just break me, And it's like, and so I backed out. That's the one time I backed out. But every other time I would just I'd amplify what they were doing to me. Yeah. In a kind of sociopathic way and thrust. And I don't advise that to people, but that's how I, and the other way I survived bullying was being the class clown, was being a joker. And I don't advise that either, because that's not really resolving it. But I would place myself in that strict, compact social setting by being the joke maker, the guy that was always the comedian and making people laugh. And I thought that would be a way not only to get accepted by the other kids, but maybe deflect, like, maybe I'm not worth punching in the face because I may not tell you a joke or, be that. It doesn't work, but that was my strategy at 10 years old or whatever. But it was more for social acceptance. But just go see somebody that can get you to the resources would be my advice. And know that your future will be brighter. And as Mollie said, it's not you, it's them. And it hurts. It sucks, because I had friends I knew people that would get bullied, and I've seen it, and it's horrible. And I had it, I had the one guy that I could shoot him, but I couldn't do much else. I had guns at the time, and I was like, oh man, you're lucky I don't want to go to jail for the rest of my life. Although I could probably do it discreetly and nobody would know, but they'd still know, but because the guy was a jerk. But anyway, enough of that nonsense. Oh gosh, let's have you pick something to pull out. I mean, I got more questions for you, but is there anything at this point that you want to bring up for the audience? Anything you want to share? And I don't want to put you too much on the spot, because I got other things to talk about, but I just want to check in with you.
A thing that I found recently, actually, and it was when I announced the news about the script. There were so many people that were messaging me and that were commenting lovely things and everything like that. And I think that means so much more when you haven't had it. So obviously when I was at school and everything, even if someone was nice to me, there would still be some kind of ulterior motive behind it, and there will be something kind of in the future that will crop up. But that was really, really important to me the other night, to kind of, not even on like the public post or whatever, but when I shared it with friends and family and everything like that, and the people that are kind of close to me, the response that I had off of them and the words that they said to me and everything, I don't cry, but I was like so close to crying the other night, because it was so heartfelt and it was so genuine, and it was a moment where I knew that it was genuine, and I wasn't scared about kind of what was going to happen in the future or how they were going to use it against me or anything. And I think that just shows that when you have people around you that are supportive and that big you up and everything like that, rather than the opposite, it can honestly make all the difference in the world. Because I could have easily not been as excited about that news if someone would have like said something horrible about me or about it or whatever. But it made me even more excited, the fact that I had like made the people around me and my family and everything proud that was kind of a moment where I was like, oh, that's nice.
Mm, mm. And you put that in a bank for yourself, right? You store that and just carry it with you in life. Excuse me. In fact, in another interview that you had done, the interviewer had asked you some like a series of questions like in fact, I just love his format. We were talking about this before we hit record, and I think it was it the magic box, and he'd pull a question out for you, and I just thought that was so clever. And so one of the questions he asked you, I think it was like rapid fire, he's like, define success, and you were like, happiness. And so let's unpack that for a moment, because I think we live in a world, and it's amplified by either social media or media, and success is seen as monetary and abundance and all these other materiality things that are gathered and collected, like houses and cars and things like that. And so success equals happiness. I wrote that down as a note, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Again, you're, and I'm old, so I can say you're a young person, and so to see it in that light, I think, is sage. And so let's talk about that. For again, we have a room full of 17 and 18-year-old persons in front of us, and share with that group what success equals happiness means. Can we just, so in other words, broaden that out a little more?
I think for me, I think that's always the goal for me. I mean, obviously there's like little goals that you have and everything. There's even bigger goals kind of career wise and everything like that. But for me, my main goal in life is to just be happy. And I think that's kind of all that we can do, because everything else changes, circumstances change, kind of the world changes, and the kind of the economy and the climate that we're living in changes and everything. But the one thing that will never change is your ability to get yourself to a place where you're happy. And a lot of the time it can be very, very difficult, and a lot of the time it can kind of feel like the world is kind of like stamping on you a little bit. But that to me is when I feel like I have achieved something, when I can kind of look around and I can think I'm really happy right now. And whether that lasts for like 10 minutes or whether that lasts for like 10 years, I don't know. But to have that kind of that pure happiness in that moment, to know, okay, I'm content in what I'm doing, I'm happy, I've got wonderful people around me, kind of that for me is where I feel like I've like succeeded in something.
I'm going to give you a Buddha bow. Well said. Well said. That's why, again, I'm imagining that we are presenting this to impressionable young minds of your peer group, your generation. And so I'm trying to, and I believe that's going to be the case. Hopefully, through the miracle of distribution and social media, some of your followers will pick up on this conversation to listen to you. And that's why I want to get some of these ideas out. So let's move from success equals happiness and tell our room full of 17 and 18 and 16 to 20-year-olds that what does self-awareness mean to you, and what would it mean to people in your age range? Self-awareness.
I think it's about knowing what you're feeling, and not especially having to change that, not especially having to kind of feel okay all the time, because I think, I mean, there's days where I wake up, or there's weeks where I just think, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm supposed to kind of, I call it like my slumps, where I kind of, I just get really down for days or weeks at a time. And I think it's about being aware that that's the way that I am, being aware that I think I will probably always be like that, and that it gets better and it sometimes gets worse, and being aware of what I can do to kind of get myself out of that, in the sense of just taking it like day by day or hour by hour. But I think it's also being aware of the impact that you can have on other people and using that well. Because everyone has been impacted by someone else, whether that be positively or negatively, or probably both. But it's being aware that you have the power to do that, and every single person on this earth has the power to have an impact on someone. I think it's about being aware, not being overly conscious of it, and not kind of stressing yourself out to a point of, am I being a good example or anything like that, but just knowing, because I think that can be very rewarding, to feel like you have had an impact on someone in a positive way. And if you've had an impact on someone in a negative way, that can often be very difficult to kind of come back from, because you'll always feel guilty for that. So I think it's about being self-aware of your actions and the things that you say, and the way that you kind of conduct yourself, in the sense of just be someone that people remembers as a positive memory rather than a negative one, I think.
Okay. And excuse me, I'll tie in, because I always have a million opinions, but I'll tie in something that I've been working with lately in my mind, and it's a multisensory metaphor. So I like to think of like our impact on others. I'm sort of feeding off of what you just said. Our impact on others can be a lot like our physical hygiene. So if we're in a house with 10 people and somebody walks in and they obviously haven't showered, or, you know, they've been out camping and they smell really, really bad, like an old bear or something like that, it fills the room and everybody suddenly senses that, mostly through their nose, and maybe they look dirty and disheveled too, but it's like, so I call it, so that's your physical hygiene. And then I would just convert that over to a kind of emotional hygiene and a social hygiene. So if somebody walks into the room and they're angry and they're judgmental and they're aggressive, or they're doing what Andy did in Zoe, you feel that, right? And everybody in the room suddenly just like, ooh, you know, it's not they're smelling it, they're just sensing that this person, you know, they just brought this nastiness into the room. And so I just throw that out there as a metaphor for like how aware we can be of ourselves. Like if we walk in the room and we're the one that really smells like a skunk ape, or, you know, we're having a really bad day, or we're just naturally not a pleasant person to be around, that if you can cultivate that kind of like being able to compare the two and say, oh, well, I you know, because most of us take care of our hygiene, and we put deodorant on, we shower every day, you know, we try to be presentable to people. And so anyway, I just throw that out as a sort of feedback to what you were just saying. And I think the other thing that I pulled from an interview that you had done, you were talking about like a kind of non-attachment when it comes to having pleasant passage through life's experiences, or experiencing life that, you know, put a value on experience rather than sort of what society tells you is a necessary thing to attach to. So the idea of glamour, or the idea of being right about things, like a know-it-all kind of thing, or, you know, whatever these things are that outward pressure puts on you. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Like, just
I think I see it as the knowledge of the fact that even if you had like millions and millions in the bank or something, it doesn't guarantee that you'll be happy. And I think for me, life is about experiences, and I see it as I think that everything happens for a reason. And I think that we are put on this earth to make an impact, whether that be just with one person or whether that be with thousands and thousands of people. And I think that every experience teaches us. And I think that can be very difficult for me to see when it's happening. So when there's kind of a negative experience happening, it's very difficult for me to turn around and be like, oh, you know, everything happens for a reason. Because I'm like, for God's sake.
Yeah, right, that sucked.
And it just not. But then afterwards, kind of looking back and everything, as you grow from that, and it can be like the smallest little thing, or it can be like something really, really massive and really impactful. And it's only as you grow from that you realize, okay, I don't know who I'd be without that happening. So I think that every single experience that we have has value, and whether that be even down to like breaking your toe or winning the lottery or something, there is something there in every single experience, and it is something that shapes who you are.
Well said. And you know, chronologically we're different, but I just love the fact that you're coming to this interview with sage and wisdom. And I think that's, again, one of my motivations. We've strayed from film and we're talking more existential things right now. But I think if we have that capture, that you can share that information with your peer group. People my age can outgas all day long, and 18 to 20-year-olds are like, you know, just like whatever. But I think it's better capture, or it's a better exchange when somebody of their own peer group is doing that. So I think that's really cool that we can do that. Speaking of digressing from film, I want to touch base on one thing, because we're getting close to an hour already, if you can believe it. And or at least if my think my clock is right here. You had mentioned when we had first met about Rachel Talalay, I think is how you say her name, as a director. And it was cute. I looked on IMDb and she had directed Tank Girl in '95. And that was kind of a cult film. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but like my
No,
wife
I
and
don't think I have.
it's cute. Yeah, if you like her as a director, it's kind of a really frenetic, crazy film, and it's a feminine hero movie. It's a female hero movie, and it's just really, it's almost not quite post-punk. It's post something. It's just really weird film, and you might enjoy it. It's surreal, but it's interesting to watch. It's a very ADD, chaotic kind of film. So anyway, so speaking of ADD, let's talk about Rachel Talalay and how she impacted you.
Well, it was from I've always been a massive Doctor Who fan, kind of from when I was about, I think I started watching Sarah Jane Adventures, which was the spin-off, and that was kind of on when I was a kid. And then I think it was my dad who said, like, you know, this it's a spin-off, don't you? There's the main Doctor Who show. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't think I was going to like it because I was 5, I think, at the time, and I thought, oh no, like that's not my kind of thing. But I blame him for my obsession because he started it. He kind of got me onto watching it. And then I watched because I think that they kind of rebooted it like a year after I was born, I think. So I was kind of behind a bit on that, but then I caught up. And it kind of progressed throughout my whole life in a way, because I wanted to start acting, because I wanted to act in Doctor Who. So that kind of like, that was my dream role when I started acting, to kind of be a companion or something like that. Or when Jodie Whittaker became the Doctor, like that kind of opened up the fact that I could play the Doctor or something. And then as that kind of progressed and everything, I learned more about the behind the scenes of it and everything. I saw Rachel Talalay listed as the director. I was like, oh my God, you know. And then it was through that I started. It was when I started directing that I was looking at kind of famous directors, and specifically famous like female directors, and I knew that she had directed Doctor Who. So I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. So I think it's kind of it's insane, because a lot of people kind of stop watching when they reach a certain point, but I just never have. And it's become like a companion to my life now, that show has.
Awesome.
But now I follow what she does and everything. I think that the way that she directs, a lot of my favorite episodes have been directed by her, and I think that the way that she does it is brilliant. So it started off as kind of little 5-year-old me, liking the show for the show, and now it's kind of 18-year-old me watching the show and seeing like the production behind it and thinking how brilliant it is.
Yeah, absolutely. What a muse to follow too. Somebody with that and I was found it interesting. She's an American director, I think from Chicago or somewhere like that, and a lot of her work's over on your side there. Excuse me. Now you just opened up something, a nice segue of a question that I wanted to ask, and it's a bit trivial, but I wanted to pose it to you. When my wife and I binge watched about 1,500 movies from 2007 to, like, I don't know, 2016, like 10 years. It was 2018 probably when we got rid of our Netflix. And we watched a lot of indies, a lot of foreign films, things like that. We didn't really get into the CGI hero stuff that's real popular now. But anyway, at the end of every one of those films is one of these sort of making of reels. Do you ever love watching those behind the scenes? Like, it's just I mean, it's kind of dry for some people, but just, I think somebody like you would just totally love that. In fact, that was my favorite part of most of the movies, was watching production and getting insights from how they were making. I mean, it inspired me. I was like, I need to go make a movie now. Even if it sucks, I want to just go do that. And I'll never do that, but I mean, I'll do something. So anyway, do you ever do that? And do you ever get really like turned on by that? Like, just, oh my God, that's so cool. I just learned something new about the technique or whatever, the craft.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ridiculous because I make films, but I don't watch a lot of films generally.
Okay.
I'll watch short films, and I'll watch kind of things that people I know have brought out and everything. But I have a terrible attention span, so watching a film takes about 3 days for me. The last time I watched a film was when I had COVID, but I couldn't do anything else. So I thought, okay, my attention span can deal with this.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I kind of, a lot of the time I watch the behind the scenes more than I watch the actual films, because it's really, really interesting to see that, because I do think that filmmaking has ruined films and TV for me, because I cannot watch something now without thinking, I wonder who the director is, wonder who the production company is. Like, I can't just watch it.
Oh yeah,
I've got to kind of Wikipedia it and see kind of, and go down a bit of a rabbit hole with, oh, what else have they directed? Oh, I've seen that. And then just keep going and going. But yeah, definitely, I think it's really, really insightful, and it's inspiring as well to kind of see these massive productions and see the way that they get made. And I'm always really interested in kind of the origin story of things, as in like how that idea became like a Netflix production, or how it's on BBC or something. That's something that like really, really interests me. And that's what I love about kind of working in the industry and everything, is that so many people and you follow so many people, that you're kind of there at like the start, and you see all of these amazing things that are happening. And even if you've never met them before, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You get so excited for them. But yeah, kind of any kind of interview with directors or producers or writers or anything, where they're kind of saying how their idea got into kind of these massive places, that's kind of, I love stuff like that, because it's just really, really inspiring to hear people's stories.
It's so insightful, and then you can go back to the film refreshed or informed or newly informed. I think I've done that a couple times, and I'll see the film differently and have a different take on it. Like you said, there's the technical, mechanical aspect of it, but also just what the director was thinking. You sometimes those films are so abstract and obscure and surreal that you're like, what? And so you get back into the head of the director, and they'll talk to you about some of the flow that went on in the creation, and you're like, oh, okay, now I have to revisit that and see that. So, Mollie, we've reached an hour, and I have an appointment. Otherwise, I would want to talk to you for at least another half an hour. But what I would like to do is, if you enjoyed this interview and you found it a good use of your time, I will invite you back, and soon, perhaps, maybe into the late spring or something, and we can talk again. Because, like I said, I think getting you to speak to things to your peer group might be important. Plus, we can put film in there too at the same time. So let's if you're good, we'll do that. And
definitely.
All right, wonderful. But I want to thank you so much for coming and having a conversation with me. I appreciate it, and I valued it. And like I said, I'm already looking forward to another one. So
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you on board. So I will say goodbye to the YouTube audience, and then I'm going to say goodbye to Mollie after we are done recording. But to everyone who's watched this interview, thank you guys so very much. I hope you had a insightful viewing experience with the interview. Take care, everyone.